This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to you all. Let's get ready for a big weekend in sports here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Lots to get to with the Winnipeg Jets with games Friday and Saturday night against the Calgary Flames. CFL playoffs coming up, NFL, and we'll also talk about the 20-1 Winnipeg Ice, the number one team in Canadian junior hockey. Brian Munz joining us a little later on. We'll have Marshall Ferguson tee up the CFL playoffs and get his thoughts on the East and West semis. And with many people consuming this podcast or show a little later on Friday into Saturday, we'll get ready for the Jets and Flames on Saturday night with my good friend Pat Steinberg from the Fan 960 in Calgary. Of course, Jets Minnesota happening today. If you are listening, later on, and you want to just get to Saturday's action and everything that's going on, Pat will join us in about 15 minutes or so, and we'll really focus in on Saturday night and the incredible story of the Flames right now, who come into this weekend in first place in the Pacific Division, and then chop it up with the guys talking football as well as we again. And of course, it's Friday. And we are starting early, but just because we're starting early with a unique Friday afternoon game for the Winnipeg Jets does not mean we will not do a marble race. So to everyone on YouTube, thanks for joining us at the special time. And we will get the marbles going before we finish up in and around 1 o'clock here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Do want to thank all of our sponsors for making this happen. Of course, it's Black Friday. Great day to get some great deals and a great day to support our sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk, including Vita Health Fresh Market, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and of course, our betting partner at Coolbet Canada. Speaking of Coolbet, before I bring Remis in, had an amazing time last night here in Saskatoon at the curling. Lots going on right now. We just did another video. It'll be up on all the Coolbet socials shortly for the 2 p.m. draw today. We'll have more coming up on Saturday night, and we'll talk about it when we get Remis in here. But let's get the show on the road and welcome in the CTO himself. Remo, what's going on?
Hey, Huss. How are you? Feeling good. I'm ready for early Friday. Big weekend. I did enjoy the NFL yesterday. I think the Cowboys-Raiders game was the game of the day. The other games all sucked, unless you had Josh Allen in fantasy, which I did in some lineups. But now we're done with football. It's Black Friday hockey. I'm seeing way too many tweets online, Huss, on my timeline, and in chat, people in chat as well, being like, "Why is there a game Friday afternoon?" It's the annual Jets Wild Black Friday game. This happens every year. It's awesome. I'm a big fan. I remember Connor Hellbuck's first start ever came in a Black Friday game, and it's special to me because that was the day I bought my PS4 on Black Friday. So that's how I remember. That's how I remember it. But yeah, the Jets Wild annual Black Friday. So I'm pumped for it.
Well, and obviously the last 2 years have sucked for everyone with the pandemic, and that's, changed everything, including travel. But, you're exactly right. I mean, when this game started, coming out, this is a popular time for Canadians to maybe go down south of the border and do some shopping anyways. It's certainly a festive time. Really, I think in the United States, the Thanksgiving holiday is actually a bigger holiday than the Christmas holidays right now. So it's been an amazing time for Jet fans to make the pilgrimage down and fill the seats at the XL Energy Center and cheer on their team against the Minnesota Wild. I will be interested to see how many Jet fans are at the game in the Twin Cities because, there is a little bit more ability to travel right now, but certainly I think a lot of people that, would normally have done that before, maybe still staying north of the border right now. So, as we get out of this or into a new normal, I imagine we'll start seeing more Jet fans at Wild games and Wild fans up here in Winnipeg at the Canada Life Center. But for right now, I think it'll be more of a home crowd than it normally is on this game. That being said, it is fun to shake things up a little bit. There's been a few afternoon games, weekday games in Winnipeg Jets history. And, it's usually, there's been, I think, a couple Martin Luther King Day games. But this is the one that has been happening somewhat regularly on the schedule for the better part of, I'd say, at least the last 5 years. So, yeah, I am with you. When people are all shocked about it, it does seem a little strange, but everything's strange right now. Once you realize where we're at, the calendar, what's happening south of the border, it makes sense. And tell you what, I'm here for it. I don't mind doing a show a little earlier on a Friday and taking off and saddling up for a Jets game to kick off the weekend on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and there's a lot of NHL games. So if you got the package, you can watch this afternoon. It was great. I like the afternoon weekday sports. I had my tablet on yesterday watching that exciting Bears-Lions game. Real exciting tilt there.
I had it on the TV as well during the thing. I did have Lions plus 3.5, so I was just worried the Bears were going to score a touchdown at the end. It was preoccupying me a little bit towards the last 10 minutes or so of the program. But you're right. That Cowboys-Raider game was wild, back and forth. Big plays, big mistakes, but more than anything, Remo, literally a million penalties in that football game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you do, but it seems like every time there's a defender touching receiver, they just call the flag, even if the ball's uncatchable. I don't know. It's an issue. I'm seeing a lot of people calling us for NFL officials to be made full-time. It's crazy to me that they're not already. NFL's like, I don't know, billion-dollar industry, and you can't have full-time officials. Like, what are we doing here? Why is that even a debate?
That's a great question. That is a great question. You would think that with the money involved in these leagues, that they would put a little bit more into officiating because of how, important it is. And, we can talk about PI calls and, the standard for throwing a flag, and some of the units or the teams are, certainly more flag happy than others. What's really been controversial this year is the way that they have called the taunting penalties. And that was a huge topic a couple of weeks ago, maybe less so this weekend. And you'll hope that, common sense will prevail when it comes to that. But, as far as yesterday goes in the NFL, a real dud. We knew we were getting one. At least it came down to the end. It was somewhat exciting if you cared who was won or lost between the Bears and the Lions. A fun game between the Cowboys and the Raiders, and a huge win for the Raiders. They've really struggled the last couple of weeks, and the Cowboys now finishing up the AFC West. They finished 1-3 against the AFC West. It's a pretty good football team. They beat the Chargers, but lost to Denver, got killed by Denver at home, lost to the Chiefs last week, and now lost to the Raiders. So we'll talk a little bit more football, maybe look ahead to the NFL with the lines. By the way, for those of you that enjoy the Lock Shop, our sports betting podcast that I do with Dustin Nielsen, normally we'd be doing that when we're live right now with Winnipeg Sports Talk. So as far as get up to about 1 o'clock live, finish up the YouTube stream, and then get right to it with Dusty about 10 minutes afterwards. So Lock Shop will be live before we drop the puck in the Twin Cities this afternoon. But Remo, we won't talk too much about this game because I think many people are going to be listening to this either after the game or heading into tomorrow. But just building off of yesterday, there has been a lot of angst. There has been a lot of concern about where the Winnipeg Jets are right now, as certainly after a very disappointing week where nothing seems to have gone right offensively, at least in the results column. They're still generating shots and doing some things that are giving people hope that a breakthrough is just around the corner. But as we'll talk about with Pat coming up, you got a Calgary team that already has 7 shutouts on the season, and a Minnesota team this afternoon for the Winnipeg Jets that traditionally has, done a pretty good job of limiting the scoring chances. Although maybe, just maybe, we'll get a replay of that wild 6-5 overtime game earlier in the season between these two clubs, which for my money has been one of the most entertaining games of the year, even if it didn't end up with 2 points for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, that was the best game. That game, maybe one of the Oilers games, but yeah, as far as entertainment value, regardless of the result, that was one of the top games of the year. Hold on, I got the cable guy here. Huss, hold on. I'll be up in a sec. Yeah, I'll tell him where to go. But sorry, when I scheduled it, I forgot that we were here. We're starting early. But as far as tonight, I'm looking forward to seeing what the lines are. We'd like to see some goals from the Jets, some stuff on the power play. Are they going to mix up the lines this weekend? I'm not sure. But as far as the the weekend goes, like I'm not expecting, like I'll be shocked if the Jets win 2 games here this weekend against Minnesota and Calgary. You want to get out with with 2 points here at least. Like I was hoping they would win Columbus because I think this is a real tough back-to-back.
It is, and it'll be fascinating to see if, the Jets can, maybe get a little bit of puck luck, grind it out. And as we spoke yesterday, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, everything should be on the table when it comes to the forward lines, with the exception of breaking up Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. We saw Nikolai Ehlers move up to that line, and, then had Wheeler along with Scheifele and Kopp. I certainly think there's an argument to be made for maybe somebody in that bottom 6 to come in. And then the other part that we'll find out a little bit more as we get into the game is what Paul Stastny's return means for the line. Certainly, hopefully, Paul Stastny's return will help the power play in a big way because, for all the angst that, Winnipeg Jets fans have had about the PK, and justifiably so, the power play right now has completely dried up. And, for a team that had some pretty good success earlier in the season with the power play, not to mention great success at 5-on-5 scoring goals, it's been a crazy week where they've made opposition goaltenders look like Hall of Famers, and increasing frustration, really, that, in my opinion, started towards the end, midway into the third period of the Pittsburgh game, and carried over into the Columbus game. And, no better example of that than Josh Morrissey's uncharacteristic two-hander of Alexander Texier, which got him a $5,000 invoice from NHL Player Safety coming out of the game against Columbus. So, in some ways, I think, we might see something good happen for the Winnipeg Jets that gets them going in the right direction. But right now, Remis, it's been pretty clear. This team's been squeezing their sticks quite a bit. They've had a lot of chances. They haven't been putting them where they need to actually score goals. And they're going up on the road back-to-back nights against 2 very good hockey teams. And, as we'll talk with Pat Steinberg in a few minutes about what's happening in Calgary with the Flames this season, when you want to talk about scoring goals, there's maybe not a more difficult team to score against right now than Darryl Sutter and the Calgary Flames, who have racked up 7 shutouts so far this season.
Yeah, it's incredible what the Flames are doing. Total disappointments last year, and they've kind of fallen, even after losing their captain and signing Blake Coleman, they're coming back. But, one thing for the Jets, this is why I'm not bringing out the panic button. I do believe they are getting scoring chances, but for whatever reason, I mean, you see Ehlers in the slot last game, shooting it wide, or Dubois, has a nice chance shooting it wide, or shooting it right into the goalie's chest. We've seen them have chances. Maybe you'd like to see them get a bit closer to the slot area, but I don't think it's that rough. But the power play, I agree. 5-on-5, my concern, not as much, but I think penalty kill, you're going to want to continue to stay out of the box because, again, among the worst in the league, and the power play is in a bit of a rough patch. But, maybe sometimes it's a bit cyclical with you get hot, you get not. But it seems like they're moving stuff around yesterday at practice, putting Wheeler on the wall where he's had success. We'll see if that works. And as far as the line, we're kind of waiting to see what happens with Paul Stastny. He's supposed to play one of the 2 here, but I mean,
hopefully
we won't know.
Both.
Hopefully both. We don't know.
So we'll be following that throughout the day. I know Leslie Mitchell asking if it's confirmed that Stastny is in. I mean, as I said, the coach yesterday said that Paul Stastny was going to play on the weekend. They were working in a power play unit with Stastny and then swapping out he and Riley Nash. I guess so. It might be a game time decision for Stastny today, but as Remis just mentioned, they did say that he'd be playing one of the 2 games this weekend. So if they don't think he's ready for the Friday afternoon game, expect to see him on Saturday night against the Calgary Flames. And it's unreasonable to expect that Paul Stastny's arrival in the lineup is just going to change things like that. But it certainly will give a different look to the top 9. And I would also suggest that the reemergence of Paul Stastny on the power play will be a good thing for the Winnipeg Jets. Certainly, it's not going to get any worse than it's been lately on an 0-for-20 slump right now. That has really been impactful in these recent regulation losses for the Winnipeg Jets. So in just a couple minutes, we'll look at Saturday's game and find out more on the Red Hot Flames with only 3 regulation losses in their first 20 games and 7 shutouts, as we mentioned. But Remo, I just quickly have to talk about the curling last night. Went out to the rink for the women's draw. Huge matchup between Manitoba's Carrie Einarson and Rachel Homan. Big win for Carrie. She now can clinch her spot with a win this afternoon, same time when the Jets are playing against Kelsey Rock. And if that happens, all 3 playoff teams will be the 3 Manitoba teams. First off, congratulations to Tracy Fleury. She and her rink from East St. Paul has been the class of the event so far, 7-0. She's taken on Jennifer Jones, who has also already qualified for the playoffs. And Fleury's going to play that game and sit back and chill and get ready for one game to become Canada's Olympic representative. But if Einarson wins, it'll be Einarson versus Jones. What an incredible rivalry that has been over the years. And they'll be playing for a shot at Fleury. But that Coolbet prop we were talking about heading in, will the Manitoba team win the event? That could cash before we even get to the playoffs if Carrie Einarson could do it. But highlights, and I did tweet this out last night, the Einarson crew that is supporting Carrie, you can see it, you can see it on the YouTube. The jackets that they made were so hilarious, just with all the different faces of Carrie Einarson. They were a big, big hit last night. And by far the funniest thing that I saw, which was actually quite distracting throughout the evening, was a fellow in the front row of the event, right beside the Einarson-Homan game, who was wearing a Rough Riders luchador mask for the entire duration of the evening. Now, I know masks are mandatory, Reem. I'm not entirely sure that the luchador mask qualifies as a COVID mask, but there you can see it. The rider guy, it was quite funny. A lot of rider gear in and around, but only one rider lucha libre, and of course he happened to be in the front row. Not sure if it showed up on TV throughout the evening, but it was quite hard to take your eyes off it despite the great action happening in front of it on the ice.
Is he wearing an N95 under that luchador
N95
mask?
rider lucha mask.
Is N95 rider. So that's pretty good. This outfit here from the Einarson supporters. I mean, where do you even get one of these? This is an incredible attire.
I fired that out, and Jay Boaz, who's a regular listener of Winnipeg Sports Talk, tweeted back, "Oh, that's my son's teacher." Anyways, they were having a great time last night. They really added a lot to the atmosphere in the event last night, and certainly for Rachel Homan's squad, a really disappointing week. It started off poorly and didn't really get much better. Tracy Fleury's been the story of this entire event. Should Carrie Einarson lose, and we talked about this on the latest video that's up at Coolbet Canada on Twitter and all the social platforms, should Carrie Einarson lose today to Kelsey Rock, she's a pretty significant favorite, but should that happen, we could be in for chaos because both Laura Walker's rink and the McCarver rink with wins could tie at four losses, and we could have 4 teams battling. So I guess there'd be 2 playoff matches just to find out who'd be taking on Jen Jones in the 2-3 game. But the curling's been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to getting out to the patch at some point on the weekend as well, and then of course back. And what a plan they've got here for Sunday. Women's final is going to be at 11 a.m. And then the patch is going to be showing the Rider Stampeder game, followed by the men's final at 7 o'clock. So big day here in Saskatoon on a Sunday. It's certainly a huge day for curling in Canada and a massive day for Manitoba, especially on the women's side. Good things for Mike McEwen. He's still very much in the mix right now with 2 matches today, hoping to be one of those playoff teams and get one step further than he did the last time around when, of course, it came down to the final shot in the final between Mike McEwen and Kevin Cooey. It was Cooey that won and was able to represent Canada, but the Manitobans still very much in the mix on the men's side right now. And we'll recap the entire weekend on Monday's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we're going to get ready for Saturday's game against the Calgary Flames with Pat Steinberg. But many of you watching live or here later, today is Black Friday. That's why we've got a Winnipeg Jet Minnesota Wild game this afternoon. And that's why we've got some incredible deals for Black Friday from many of our sponsors, including Vita Health Fresh Markets. Today, save up till 60% on some of your favorite products. And there's a great gift card deal as well. Buy a $100 Vita Health gift card and get a $10 gift card for free. Massive savings on the following products today at any of the 7 Vita Healths. Prairie Naturals Vitamin D3, Prairie Naturals Bone Broth Protein, NRC, Health First Zinc Citrate, Manitoba Harvest Natural Hemp Hearts, Bragg's Apple Cider Vinegar, La Croix Favorite Sparkling Water, and check this out, especially if you're planning on entertaining, you want some de-alc options for guests this holiday. Sober Carpenter non-alcoholic beer. They're normally $3.49, now 2 for $4 today only at any of the 7 Vita Health Fresh Markets. Find out more online at myvita.ca. Let's just say that hydration is especially important out at an event like this, with the all the fun that's being had by the curlers and the people off the field as well. Of course, when it comes to water and water services in Winnipeg, for 65 years, Manitobans have depended on the Stewart family and the Culligan man over at Culligan Water. They're at 1200 Sargent Avenue. 694-5180 is the number. You can find out more at drinkculligan.com. They've got it all for your home or your office. Water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, bottle-free coolers, whole home drinking water systems, and city-wide delivery services, where the Culligan man gets you filled up without you even having to leave your house. And of course, for your office or business, commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Hit them up and stay hydrated with the experts. 65 years in Winnipeg, family-owned Culligan Water. And still a couple days for you frontline and healthcare workers to get that great deal over at Manitoba Battery up until the end of the month. Manitoba Battery is thanking the frontline and healthcare workers by paying the taxes on any automotive battery for those that have helped us get through the challenges of COVID. And of course, the snow has been flying. It's getting a little chilly. The rinks are forming. And it's just about snowmobile time in Manitoba. But, you know, your sled needs a battery too, right? They've got, no matter what kind of sled you have, Manitoba Battery's got the battery for it. Most of them are in between $65 and $75. And, of course, the best price on automotive batteries in town. Go down and see them, 1026 Logan Avenue, 783-8787, or find out more online at manitobabattery.com. All right, well, with the strange timing of the game, we wanted to give this show a little bit more life, so we figured, you know, while many people this afternoon are watching the Winnipeg Jets and Minnesota Wild, we'll look ahead to Saturday night's game as the Jets head into Calgary to take on the first-place Flames. What a season Calgary's had so far, and Daryl Sutter's been a big, big part of it. To get ready for the game, I caught up a few minutes ago with my good friend, Pat Steinberg from the Fan 960 in Calgary. Pat, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk, man. It's great to talk to you and have you on the show.
Huss, it's an honor. I'm stoked. Let's rock.
How's the house? How's everything going first up? It's been a little while. I mean, obviously lots going on in the industry and stuff, but you're still the guy. And I have to, can only imagine, after all the conversations that we had about the Flames in the summer and the angst in the city about the off season, what did, and more often what didn't happen. What an unbelievable start for this hockey club that goes into this weekend in first place.
Yeah, man, it's been like, I would say a good chunk of Flames fans still don't know how to feel about it, like what to expect, because it was supposed to be this year where, okay, well, maybe they'll be competitive and maybe they'll be a little bit better than they were last year, but they're sitting first in the Western Conference. They've lost 3 times in regulation in 20 games to the first quarter of the season, and I'm telling you, there's still plenty of people who are like, I'm not sure about this. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something bad to happen. So it's been a lot of fun, and I give them credit. Like they are an actual legit good team, and I think that we knew that Daryl Sutter was going to make an impact. I think that we knew that Sutter was going to change the way a lot of things were done around here. I just don't know if people expected it to happen as quickly as it has and as dramatically quickly as it has. So it's impressive. And I think more and more people are starting to come around and be like, okay, you know what, maybe this is a good team. Maybe this is not just some sort of crazy thing that's going to end up breaking my heart in the end. But they're good. They're a good team they're exciting to watch. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're getting elite goaltending. Like, they're a good hockey team right now.
Well, and it's funny because we all knew that there were many really good pieces on this hockey club, but coming out of last season, it was hard to ignore just how incredibly disappointing they were. And then going into the summer, many big changes were expected. I mean, I know chats with you and Will. People were expecting them to either move on players or significantly shake things up. And it never happened. Mark Giordano left in the expansion draft. He signed Blake Coleman. I mean, those were basically the noteworthy moves in the off summer. And now this team is in first place. We talked a lot about the Sutter effect, and Flames fans were hoping, and obviously the organization was banking on it, but it really has happened. I mean, how impressive has the head coach been, and how impactful has he been in the way this team is playing and the results they're getting on the ice?
Well, he's been huge. Like, the way that they're playing, the consistency that they're playing with, the buy-in they're getting when it comes to the specific brand of hockey they need to play is unlike I've ever seen with this team in particular. Like, they are playing a brand of hockey that is all predicated on having the puck, firing a lot of shots towards the net, and not giving up much. And there were a lot of players that you're like, okay, well, is that really the type of hockey that this player is best suited to play, or is that player going to buy in? And you take a look at Johnny Gaudreau and what Johnny has done so far this year. This is the best Johnny Gaudreau that we've ever seen play. He is playing engaged defensively. He's playing a 200-foot game. You don't have to shelter his game in any way, shape, or form. And on top of all that, he is still producing and still leading the team in scoring. And a guy like Johnny Gaudreau has bought in and has thrown himself 100% into the way this team wants to play. So, when you get buy-in like that, and I think one of the big things is when Daryl Sutter walked into that room midway through that 56-game season last year, and he started talking about different things and different ways to play, I think it immediately took. And even though the results with Daryl last year were 15 wins, 15 losses, no losses in extra time, I think that what it turned into was this guy's won a Stanley Cup, 2 Stanley Cups. This guy has a proven track record, and I think it just automatically perked people up and said, okay, let's actually listen. Let's buy in, and that's something that this group has had trouble with. And this is an organization that hasn't always gone out and brought in the biggest name or most accomplished head coach, and then they did. And look at what's happened. So they're playing a different brand of hockey. They're getting buy-in. You take a look at a lot of the things that I look at and a lot of things that I trust. It looks like they're playing a sustainable brand of hockey. They're not getting outshot. They're spending more time on the attack. They're generating offense in a sustainable way. It may not be as lopsided in every game that they're playing this year, but they're generating in a sustainable way. And yeah, again, they're not going to have 7 shutouts in every 20 games for the rest of the way. But a lot of the things that they're doing that have led to the success they've had feels like things that they can do in the final 62 games of the season.
Well, I'll say this, considering the issues the Jets have had over the past week scoring goals, we might want to pound the under for the game on Saturday night. I'll tell you that. Hey, you mentioned Johnny. I don't know how many hours we spoke over the summer talking about the Gaudreau situation, his contract. Would the team trade him? Would they sign him? None of it's happened, and now he's having this incredible season. So I imagine the big show as we get into the next few weeks, the conversation will all be, well, what did they do with Johnny? Are they going to sign him going forward? Because, I mean, he is a huge part of the hockey club and, I mean, a major asset for the team. But, man, he's playing himself into a pretty nice paycheck for his next deal.
Yeah, and it's a story that, so on the first or second day of training camp this year, Johnny met the media, and he said, "Yeah, I'm probably not going to talk about my contract this year, so don't bother asking." Was basically the message that he gave. And I think I think that they're doing everything in their power to keep things under wraps, to not have leaks come out. And I think they're doing everything in their power to make sure that this does not turn into something that is kind of a public spectacle. And every 2 weeks, it's like, okay, well, what's going on with Johnny and the Flames? I still think he's going to re-sign. I still think he's going to sign here long term. I think that it was actually pretty close to being done in the last number of months, like kind of before the season. I thought that we were close to having something done. Nothing ended up getting done, and here he is, 20 games into the season without a contract. The problem is for the Flames is that if it continues to drag on and doesn't get done, and I really do think that they're going to find a long-term agreement here and be able to agree on something. But if it doesn't get done, and now all of a sudden we're into the new year and we're into January and February and there's still no contract, and now we're talking about a situation where the trade deadline's approaching and you might be at risk of losing this guy at the end of the year, that's when the conversation is going to get really interesting. Now, if I'm a betting man, and I am, and we both are, so I am a betting man. I would put money down that we are going to see him sign, and this is going to get put to bed. But that those odds change every day it goes by. It's like, okay, well, if it's minus 300 right now, well, then next week it'll be down to kind of maybe it's minus 295, and every day it keeps on changing a little bit. So that's the only thing is, as confident as I am that something's going to get done, you just lose a little confidence every passing week that something hasn't been signed. So I do believe him when he says he wants to stay. I do believe there's a desire from the Flames to keep him, but you still got to find him. You still got to find a term. You still got to find a dollar figure, and that remains in the ether right now. So we'll see how this thing plays out.
Pat Steinberg is the host of The Big Show on the Sportsnet, the Fan 960, and the host of Calgary Flames hockey on the station as well. Getting ready for the Jets and Flames, 9 p.m. puck drop on Saturday night. What the hell's gotten into Mangiapane? 15 goals on the season? Where did this come from?
He is out of his mind. And look, he's shooting at like 30%. He's not going to keep on putting up numbers like this, but the guy's out of his mind. And we knew coming into the season that Andrew Mangiapane was a player. Like that had been cemented. He went to the World Championships last year, a number of months ago, and was the MVP and turned Canada's fortunes around. And he had a great year last year. So we knew Mangiapane was legit. We knew Mangiapane was a top 6 player in the NHL. Like we understood that he could play top 2 lines on this Flames team. But what we didn't necessarily expect was this guy to step into a role this year, which was not a top 6 role at all times, and shoot the lights out and play with the type of confidence that he's played with. Andrew Mangiapane is just like, the story is outstanding. To go from being a undrafted OHL player to a 6th round pick in the NHL in his second go around in the draft, and then to work his way up to what he's worked his way up to is pretty impressive. And this is a guy that's doing it without number 1 power play time. He's on the number 2 power play unit, which in Calgary, they typically run the number 1 unit like 90 out of 2 minutes, 90 seconds out of 2 minutes. And then maybe the number 2 unit can come on for a face-off or a line change or something like that. So he's not playing top power play time. And he's not playing on the team's top line. The top line of Elias Lindholm, Johnny Gaudreau, and Matthew Tkachuk has been lights out. And you're not breaking that line up. Like, there have been times when we've seen Mangiapane play on what could be called the 4th line. He was playing with Dylan Dubé at center ice and Brett Ritchie for a little bit. And, you take a look at the even strength minutes, and they were being rolled out like a 4th line. Now he's playing with Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman, and that is a true second line on this team. And sometimes you see them use like a first line, but yeah, he's done all this in circumstances where he hasn't necessarily been fed the best or most the minutes that would lead him to be the type of goal scorer that he's been to this point. And he has a nose for the net. He's got a great shot, and his confidence level is out of control. Like, he is doing things right now that we never see him do before. That goal that he scored against Montreal from one knee, some of the areas that he's shooting from, some of the drive that he's had even without the puck to get to hard areas. Like, we haven't really seen this type of confidence from Mangiapane before. I think going to the World Championships after the season he had last year just kicked him to a whole new level in that regard. And he came back with a belief, I think for the first time, a belief that NHL is where I belong. Not only is the NHL where I belong, but I'm a good NHL player, and I'm going to go out and show you. And he has done just that right from the get-go. And the craziest thing about the goals that he scored this year, he scored 14 of his 15 on the road. Like, he's all but one of his goals have been scored away from the Scotiabank Saddledome. So he's been outstanding. He has been, and it hasn't just been the goals. So he's been a good player, a consistent player. But yeah, it's been cool to see him rewarded with this type of production.
No, Pat, you can't win without goaltending. God knows we spent a lot of time talking about Markstrom. And I mean, to be honest, I thought Markstrom had a real strong start. I thought he struggled coming back from injury. And at the end of the season, you know, when the team was really playing out the stretch, I thought he kind of looked like the guy in the first part of the season. All that being said, I mean, he's taken his goaltending level to a whole nother, raised the bar. And Dan Vladar, I mean, what an addition he's been. Now, the team, I think, has a big part of that. But, man, when you're getting a shutout every 2 or 3 games, I mean, there's a lot of things going right. But a big part of that is what's happening in the net.
So it's kind of like a twofold thing. So there's no doubt about it that the 7 shutouts that they had in their first 19, now first 20 games, like, you don't do that without the type of structure the team is playing with. And that absolutely is a huge part of it. And they have played with really good structure. But at the same time, like, you don't get there without really good goaltending either. You still need good goaltending to be able to post those 7 shutouts. And here's the thing, I'll like, on the Markstrom front, the thing that has been most impressive to me about him is that he went from being in Vancouver, and even in his first few games, I guess would have been first 26 games as a member of the Flames before Daryl Sutter got here last year, he was a high volume goaltender. He was a guy that saw a lot of shots. He was, you know, in Vancouver, in Florida, he would be seeing like 30 plus shots a night, and he would be dialed in from start to finish in a game because he had to be, because the other team was spending a lot of time on the attack. Well, what the Flames have done, and what the Flames have done this year, is that they have gone long stretches of the puck not being in their zone and their goaltenders not being tested. And to go from being a guy that saw a lot of shots and a lot of chances to now being behind a team that gives up some of the least shots and the least chances in the NHL, and to not have your game suffer, and to make that adjustment mentally. He talked a little bit about it yesterday. He's like, it's been an adjustment, but, you know, he's made the adjustment well, and that's been really impressive. And he's been outstanding. Like, he is playing at a world-class level. There's like no doubt in my mind that he'll be Sweden's starting goaltender at the Olympics. And he has been exactly what they went out to get him for, and signed him to a 6x6. And then Vladar has been, you know, it's been the same thing with him. And he has stepped in, and after his first 2 starts where he was good but not great, gave the team a chance to win. He's posted back-to-back shutouts in his last 2 starts. He had the middle start of his 5 starts was this outstanding game that they ended up losing in overtime on the road in Toronto. And he was the number 1 star for Calgary, and the biggest reason they were able to be in a position to win and eventually get the single point. And he's been really good, and he's been calm, and he's been a guy that has been a perfect fit inside that locker room. He is as like nice and humble and all about the team as you can find. So yeah, the goaltending was a question mark, in that we didn't know what Vladar was going to be. We didn't know how Markstrom was going to play behind a team that didn't give up a lot of shots. And we didn't know, you know, the consistency that Markstrom was going to play with. But, you know, everything is firing on all cylinders. I don't think they're going to get 936, 937 team goaltending the rest of the way, because that's really hard to do. But I think what's clear is that they got 2 goaltenders that they can trust, and 2 goaltenders that can give them a chance to win on a nightly basis. And on some nights, they can straight up be the biggest reason why they win a game.
Well, it's certainly going to be a great test for Winnipeg. I mean, they had a great start. They were 9-3-3, and coming into this weekend, the game on Friday afternoon against the Minnesota Wild, have now scored only 4 goals in the last 4 games, and really have wasted some brilliant performances by Connor Hellebuck, who I think has gone 8 games in a row, giving up 2 goals, and they've only won 3 of those games. But it was interesting. Of course, the Jets have now developed a bit of a rivalry with the Edmonton Oilers. From the sweep last week, a couple really exciting games a couple weeks ago. But I have to think, every time I look at the standings, the Battle of Alberta is back. The Oilers have a squad. The Flames have done what we've just been talking about. How great are these games going to be? And what about just the buzz of that rivalry right now back with the way that both of these teams have started this season?
So they played the one game to open the season for Calgary. It was Edmonton's second game, and they played that game right at the beginning of the year. Oilers won at 5-2. It was actually a pretty competitive game, and I think the Flames actually played some pretty good hockey that night. 5-on-5, they played a really solid game, but they spent too much time in the penalty box, and I don't know if you have seen the Oilers lately, but when you take penalties on them, they're kind of dangerous, just with their 50% or whatever it is power play, and I think they scored 2 power play goals that night. But the buzz is absolutely on. And the cool thing about the Battle of Alberta right now is that we still have meetings to come. Both teams are still showing us that they're not going anywhere. Both teams are still showing us that they're going to remain really good hockey teams. And they do things in really different ways. The Flames are a team that's predicated on their 5-on-5 play and how stingy they are and how little they allow. And it's kind of a team thing. And as much as they're being driven by their top line, which has been outstanding, that Lindholm line has been one of the NHL's best, there's still a team that I think is predicated a little bit more on offense by committee, and they're getting great goaltending. Well, then you've got the Oilers, and this is no knock on Mikko Koskinen, who I know his game has fallen off a little bit. I think he's just getting worn out. He's never been a guy that can take on that workload and sustain it. But, the Oilers are a team that a lot of the times they just can outscore their issues. And they're a team that, it doesn't really matter what's going on at one end of the ice, because if you've got Connor and Leon putting up 3 points each and that power play is humming like it has been, they're going to beat you by a 5-3 score, and they're going to do it in kind of what looks like a sleepwalk for them. So the different ways they're doing it, I'm really excited to see the next time they play. But yeah, the buzz is, we got a lot of Oiler fans that listen to our radio station, a lot of Oiler fans who live in Calgary, and our text line is always lit up with, the Flames are a false flag, and the Flames are, you guys are buying way too much in. Wait till they play the Oilers. I think, and the thing is, you've got 3 teams in the Pacific right now that I think are maybe a cut above the rest. And this is no knock on Anaheim, who's been a really good story. And maybe the Ducks do stick around and they're in this conversation all year long. We'll see. But it kind of feels like Vegas, Edmonton, Calgary are the 3 teams in the Pacific that have the best chance of wrapping up the division. Well, if Vegas continues to play the way they have, they've won 8 of 11. And if they end up wrapping up the division and they finish first in the Pacific, well, then we're talking about a 2-3 Calgary Flames Edmonton Oilers playoff matchup. And we haven't seen that since the early 1990s. We're going on 30 plus years since these 2 teams have played one another in a playoff series. So I think the buzz is there. The fact that once again, there's a decent chance for these 2 teams to play one another. It's not a weird COVID year where you wouldn't have fans in the building, all that type of stuff. Yeah, the buzz for the Battle of Alberta is picking up, and now we just got to watch and wait for them to play one another once again, because we're still a little ways out from the second game after the first one in October.
Well, Jets Flames Saturday night, 9 p.m. hockey night in Canada. Pat Steinberg is with us from Sportsnet in Calgary. Patty, before we go, the focus on Sunday, of course, is going to be on the West Semi. Stamps, Riders, give us the lowdown. What do you think about this game, and can Calgary get it done on the road? And if they win, how many of their players won't be making the trip to Winnipeg because they're unvaxxed?
That story is going, if the Stampeders win on Sunday, that story is going to blow up, because I don't know what has and has not been reported, but it sounds like 2 or 3 pretty significant members of the Stampeders would not be able to play after November 30th. And I don't know if I have to tell you this, but you probably want to have your full complement of players to go to IG Field and play the Bombers. They've been pretty good there. It's been a pretty good year for Winnipeg. Like, you want to be without like significant parts of your team. It actually is kind of this weird simmering story. It's like, okay, well, they play the Riders, they go to Mosaic, but then what? And beating the Riders is going to be no easy task, because they played one another 3 times in October. It was kind of a 3-game mini series. Calgary played them 3 and 4. Saskatchewan played them 3 in a row with a bye in there. So Calgary won the first 2, and Sask won the third one. And there was literally nothing separating the 2 teams in those 3 games. Each game was a 1-possession game. 2 of them were decided by 3 points. They were defensive slugfests. They were right down to the wire in the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what I expect. I mean, last I checked, I think it was Calgary was plus 1.5, which means they're favored by a 1.5 in a neutral site. And I mean, there's nothing separating these 2 teams. They go about their business in very similar ways. Defensively, it all starts on both their defensive lines. There's ball hawk playmakers in the secondary and extremely talented defensive backfields. Quarterbacks that have had good but not necessarily great seasons. It feels like Bo Levi Mitchell is really starting to find his game. Cody Fajardo's game seems like it is peaking now, especially that he's got Shaq Evans and Duke Williams in the fold. So, Shaq Evans was hurt for a little bit, then Duke joins in. It just, everything feels like this is going to be another slugfest, another 1-possession game that's right down to the wire. The worry for a Stampeders team is that they're going on the road and playing in Mosaic in the playoffs. That's an inherent, and there's no doubt about it. That's an advantage for Saskatchewan. But I think Calgary can absolutely pull it off, because it's a game between 2 very evenly matched teams. So it honestly could go either way. And then there's that story knocking on the door if the Stamps do beat the Riders about how many guys can't come to Winnipeg if they get to the Western Finals. So I'm looking forward to the game. I think it should be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be an extremely competitive game. And I chose the Stamps at CFL.ca just because I like trolling the Riders. But also, I think the Stamps have got a good chance at winning that game, because I still take Bo Levi Mitchell in a playoff game. I still trust that guy, even though his season has not been a typical Bo Levi Mitchell season.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is pretty much a straight-up pick-em game. I mean, whatever the spread is, 1 or 2 points, I mean, that could go either way. The 3 games, as you mentioned, were so close between these 2 clubs, and should be a great weekend of sports, that's for sure. I mean, we'll focus in on the Jets and Flames on Saturday night, and then, of course, buckle up for some CFL playoff action on Sunday and see who will be coming here to Winnipeg, take on the Bombers in the West Final on December 5th. Pat, man, great to have you back on the program. Thanks so much for doing this. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, Huss. That was awesome.
Great stuff with my guy, Pat Steinberg. Again, Jets and Flames, Saturday night, 9 p.m. on Hockey Night in Canada. The 3rd game in 4 nights for the Winnipeg Jets. Tough spot going up against a team that has been one of the great stories so far of the season. Without a ton of off-season changes, Daryl Sutter's gone in and really turned that team around from one of the most disappointing in the league last year to a first-place squad heading into the weekend. Of course, folks, it is Black Friday. Thanks to everyone that joined us for the early show. Great to see everyone in here. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button on the YouTube broadcast. And if you have not before already, hit the red subscribe button. Make sure you do that. You're going to want to be subscribed so you are eligible to win some great prizes from our friends at Canadian Club, the official sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk and the official whiskey of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We've got a hoodie, a Winnipeg Sports Talk CC hoodie to give away, as well as an I Love Rye package. And for everyone that won last Friday, I headed out of town right afterwards. We'll have today's winners and last week's winners, everything ready to pick up early next week when I do get back. Hey, as I mentioned, Black Friday right now, our friends over at Royal Sports know how to bang out a great sale. Check out their Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for all of the great deals. But Warrior hockey sticks are up to 50% off. Female and male Under Armour apparel, 30% off right now. New Balance soccer boots, 50% off. Jets Aviator jerseys, 50% off. And Winnipeg Jets jerseys, home or away, name and numbers, 50% off, in-store only. And here's some more Black Friday deals. Vans Old Schools, all 40% off. Sorrel Winter Boots, 30% off. Sax Underwear, buy one, get one 50% off. And snowboard clearance area has been reloaded. Many more in-store deals. It all ends Sunday over at Royal Sports on Pembina. Always great deals there, but especially on a day like Black Friday. Want to give a shout out to our friends at Not Autocorp as well. Obviously, right now we are into winter, and it was interesting seeing the folks over at the Not Autocorp Insta page featuring many of the people that have just gotten new vehicles, getting ready for winter. If you have been thinking that maybe it's time for a new ride, before you do anything, talk to the folks over at Not. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? They're over at Waverly and McGillivray. The Winnipeg Car Lab is now open as well. Follow them on all the socials at Winnipeg Car Lab, and you can find out more on everything that Not has to offer over at not.ca online. And our friends at Little Brown Jug are just about to celebrate 5 years. The 5th anniversary. We'll be doing something with the owner next week. Really looking forward to that. But to commemorate the 5 years of Little Brown Jug, they've got a new beer, the 5-year anniversary brew, the Brute IPA, which is a celebratory beer brewed for Little Brown Jug's 5th anniversary, a champagne-like extra dry IPA with flavors of citrus and stone fruit. You can pick that up right now at the tap room on William Avenue. Great spot to be if you've never been there before. Also a great spot maybe for your holiday party. You can check the events page at littlebrownjug.ca. And of course, you can also order online at littlebrownjug.ca. The new 5-year brew, new special commemorative 5-year Little Brown Jug tulip glasses, new toques. And if you're thinking about an idea for the beer lover in the family or in your circle, amazing Little Brown Jug gift boxes where you can create your own, or they've got a number that are already curated. You can, order it online. They'll dress it up nice and deliver it wherever you want. It's all there at littlebrownjug.ca. Going to talk some CFL with our guy, Marshall Ferguson, in just a couple seconds. Of course, East and West semis going on this weekend. Who will come to Winnipeg? Will it be the Riders? Will it be the Calgary Stampeders? And in the East, we talked to Marsh a couple weeks ago, huge opportunity for the Hamilton Tiger Cats to take care of business and be sitting at home this weekend waiting to see who they'd play in the East final. Well, that game in Toronto didn't go their way. It's the Argos that have won the East. They're sitting back, and the Montreal Alouettes with a lot of confidence coming in to Hamilton to take on the Ticats at Tim Hortons Field. So we'll get Marsh on right away. And really looking forward to that. He's been such a great resource of football knowledge, doing an amazing job on TSN, calling games, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun having him on the program to join us. Now, I think he clicked in. We'll just click back in to get him. Quick update for you that I've been following the curling. We've got a heck of a game. Jason Gunlickson going the distance with Kevin Cooey, the Manitoba rink at 2-4 coming into the action today. Could help a lot of teams out by dealing a third loss to the Cooey rink. Gunner just put up a 2-9. They are up 7-6. Cooey with the hammer in the 10th end right now. A tough morning for Mike McEwen. He lost, gave up 2 in the 9th to lose 9-5 to Brad Jacobs. Jacobs now at 6-1, assured of a playoff spot, and the McEwen rink 4-3. The Gunlickson rink could do Mike McEwen a huge favor by finishing off Kevin Cooey and getting the W, which would then keep the McEwen rink very much into it. If not, they'll need to win and will need to count on a Cooey loss in the final round as well. The other scores, Team Botcher beat Team Epping 10-6. And nice to see Matty Dunstone, the Winnipeg native representing Saskatchewan, playing in front of the home fans, getting another win, 8-4 over Tanner Horgan. All right, let's get ready for some football and welcome in our guy, Marshall Ferguson, out in the Hammer site of the Grey Cup coming up on the 12th. Marsh, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be on with you. I appreciate the patience. I was just shooting a very windy, very cold video for CFL.ca here at Tim Hortons Field. I'm actually on the top floor, as you can see, the beautiful Hamilton skyline coming to you from Tim Hortons Field today there. So but that's where we're playing the big game coming up in a couple of weeks. But we start with the Eastern semifinal here against Montreal for Hamilton, which should be a great one. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, I just had Pat Steinberg on, and we talked a lot about Jets Flames, but we did get to the West final. Let's start off with the East. And, first off, actually, the fact that the Ticats are in this game, the last time you were on the program with us, it was right before that Hamilton-Toronto game, and it seemed like, 2 wins for the Ticats. If they could take care of business, they would have been off this weekend. That was a really disappointing performance for them. I mean, where is this Ticat team at right now after that disappointment, and how ready are they for a Montreal team that seems to have no shortage of swagger or confidence coming into Tim Hortons on the weekend?
Yeah, no doubt. I have my questions about the Tiger Cats and their ability to step up in the big moment right now, honestly, because that Week 15 game, I really do feel like it set a bit of a tone that is hard for Ticats fans to forget about, because that felt like one of the biggest regular season games that we had seen in years between those two teams, because you've taken into account what home field advantage means in the Eastern final. And essentially having the bye and having that game at your own stadium is worth a 75% win rate in the last 20 years or so. So Hamilton was fighting for a lot that night. A lot of fans from Hamilton made the trip down the QEW, down the GO train to go to BMO Field. It didn't make a difference. I mean, they threw vertically a ton. They took lots of shots, and they couldn't complete much at all. So I was really surprised by the approach that night, especially considering the conditions, because it was kind of a playoff weather feel. It was cold. It was rainy at BMO, and it just didn't seem like it mattered very much. But Hamilton, I think this is the danger for them this year, is they are something Jack Armstrong used to tell me when I did radio in Hamilton talking Raptors with him was, there's guys in the NBA like Andrew Wiggins who are labeled as forever potential players. What that means is they might never actually reach their potential, but you always see the potential in them. Tiger Cats this year, you're waiting for Brandon Banks to explode and have a 3-touchdown game. You're waiting for Braylon Addison to be fully healthy. You're waiting for Don Jackson to consistently get the football and just churn out yardage and be a difference maker in the pass catching game. But you're waiting for all these things to happen, and it's like, okay, time's up. It's playoff time. I mean, you're playing at home. If you don't get these answers and you're not effective in this game, you might be done for the season. And all of a sudden, the home Grey Cup dreams, and even going down and having a really memorable East final at BMO against the Argos in December, which seems crazy off the lakeshore there, like that's all done if you don't take care of business this week. So I think there's a lot of risk right now, and thinking through the game specifically, as I know we'll talk about, but the actual strategy of this game, the way that Montreal wants to approach it and how they line up against Hamilton, I mean, it's danger time. It's danger time for the Hamilton Tiger Cats right now. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if we knew the outcome of this game, sports would be boring, but the playoffs are all about having this intrigue going into it. And man, we got a great matchup.
Well, and that's what they say. That's why they play the games. I mean, no one's handing the Grey Cup to the Bombers because they had a great regular season. But, you do earn a bye, which is huge in the Canadian Football League. And, full mark to the Argos for getting it done, as well as the Bombers on this side. As far as the Alouettes go, I mean, this is the team that's looked great at times, looked very pedestrian at others, but they certainly are different with Trevor Harris. What do you make of this team that's coming into Hamilton this weekend with the quarterback and the changes they made through the season? And how dangerous are they going into the Big Coffee Cup?
Yeah, it's been interesting to look at how their offense has evolved going from Vernon Adams Jr. to Trevor Harris, because when the trade originally happened on CFL.ca, I wrote about the fact that Trevor Harris in his entire career has played a certain style of football, and that style of football does not match what Kahari Jones is doing in Montreal, especially it doesn't match what Kahari Jones is doing in Montreal with Vernon Adams Jr. as his quarterback. And that difference in stylistic approach, it was kind of oil and water to me when the trade was made. It's like, I get it. He was available. You like him. He's veteran. He can give you a chance with an injured quarterback in VA. But I just thought, I don't know if this is a very good fit. And at the end of that article, after I said, listen, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if it's going to make sense, it's because they're going to end up basically taking Trevor's style, Kahari's style, and meeting in the middle. And I looked at the numbers. That's what they've done. Like, the average depth of target for VA throughout the year was like 16.9 yards down the field, which is crazy. Trevor's in Edmonton, I believe, was like 9.6. Now it's up to around 10.3. So he's throwing more vertically. His completion percentage is higher. He actually has a higher accuracy grade and production grade on passing plays in Montreal than he did in Edmonton, despite the fact that he showed up and he was trying to learn, okay, what is the body language of Geno Lewis? How do I work with Jake Winnipeg? I've never done anything with these guys before. He knew Darrell Walker. He knew Greg Ellingson for years, and yet he's being more productive with this new group in this different offense. So that tells me that he's picked things up really quickly. And then the other thing that jumps out to me with Montreal and Trevor specifically is that I really think Kahari Jones trusts him. Like, I'm seeing this more and more, and sometimes you read into the comments in the media. Trevor came out this week and said he feels really at home and very comfortable in this offense. And sometimes quarterbacks say that, and I actually watch the games, and I think to myself, you're lying. Like, you don't feel comfortable here. You're just saying that because that's the thing the quarterback's supposed to say is, oh, I love this offense and whatever. When I watch Trevor play, I get the sense that he's calm in the pocket and he believes in the things that are around him. And I start looking at really important down and distances. And for me, that's 2nd and 7+, right? So 2nd and long. And when Zach Alaros went to Winnipeg in 2019, the Bombers essentially asked him to be, okay, first down, we're going to play Bombers football. It's going to be Andrew Harris. It's going to be little dinks and dunks and crossers. But on 2nd and long, dude, here's the ball. Like, we're giving it to you because this is why we acquired you, is to be a difference maker for us, because 2nd and 7+ really defines how successful quarterbacks are in this league. And so I looked at Trevor versus Vernon on 2nd and 7+. When Vernon was the quarterback, they called passing plays on 90% of the plays of 2nd and 7+. With Trevor, they've had 43 2nd and 7+ plays. They've called passing plays on 43 of them. 100%. They have not called a single running play on 2nd and 7+ this year when Trevor Harris has been the starting quarterback. The depth of target is a little bit longer on 2nd and 7+, the completion percentage. But the thing that really jumps out to me is I'm reading between the lines on how much they're allowing him to take the football, how much they're trusting him to not make the bad play. The interception rate is lower than Vernon's, obviously, because Vernon took more risks. The sack percentage is significantly lower. And on 2nd and long, the touchdown percentage on throws for Vernon Adams Jr. was 3.3%. For Trevor Harris in Montreal, it's 9.3%. When he's in 2nd and 7+, Trevor Harris is throwing a touchdown on over 9% of his passes on those plays. So to me, that says when they're giving him the rock on 2nd and 7+, they're really saying, here, we trust you. We believe in you. We think you've picked up the offense. Go do what you do with your understanding of CFL defenses.
Marshall Ferguson with us, getting ready for the East and West semis here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Both games on Sunday afternoon. East winner heads to Toronto to take on the Argos, and the winner of the West comes to Winnipeg to take on the Blue Bombers for a spot in the Grey Cup in Hamilton, where Marsh is, on the 12th of December. Before we get to the West, it's human nature. We focus so much on offense and, the guys that we're picking in fantasy and the guys that end up on the highlight reels. And, then we get to defense and we talk about the offensive line. I find the one aspect of the game that doesn't get talked about enough that is so impactful, especially in the Canadian Football League, is special teams. When you look at a game like this that's so closely matched up, and I know the spread is about 4.5, I think it probably should be a little closer. The difference between winning and losing can be on the third aspect of the football game. When you look at these two teams, is there an advantage from one side or the other when it comes to special teams, Marsh?
Yeah, when I hear you say that, the first thing that goes through my mind is that yesterday was the 10-year anniversary to the day of the Vanier Cup championship team that I was on at McMaster. And I interviewed my old head coach, Stefan Paterson, who most recently, before being with McMaster for his second tour of duty, essentially was out at UBC, and before that he was with the Hamilton Tiger Cats for a year in 2018. And he said to me when I was asking him about special teams, because Boris Beattie was the kicker that was with Laval at the time that we played against them in the Vanier Cup, and he was an alien even at that point. Like he was kicking the ball ridiculously for somebody who's in university football. And he said, Marsh, offense is the gas pedal, defense is the brake, special teams is the steering wheel. And I thought, oh man, what a great analogy, because
that's a good
it
line.
Controls the entire game. Like you can push it forward, you can pull it back, but if you can't steer, who the hell cares? And that's kind of how I view playoff football a lot of the time, is you got to have that steering wheel and you got to have that sense of where are we going? How do we want to shape this game? It's a great matchup in terms of special teams coordinators, because Mickey Donovan and Jeff Reinbold, I think, are some of the best in the CFL. But being able to have Reinbold's experience and how aggressive he will be, I mean, he's always got fakes lined up and they're always on the ready list and prepared. Those are the one-offs that can change the game for you and give you a little bit of extra juice. The thing I'm really interested in this one is Hamilton's kicking game does not feel very sound. Like David Cote has been pretty good for Montreal in his rookie year out of Laval. Their kicking game, Joseph Zima, Joel Whitford, the punting situation, I think is pretty even. But to go from Taylor Bertolette to Michael Domagala late in the season, that's tough. I mean, because he's been put in a situation where Liram Hairolahu wasn't automatic, but he was trusted, I think, by the coaching staff and by the fan base. And I mean, Hamilton, wouldn't have been in that week 15 situation where they needed to win in order to keep their home field, get the bye, play in the East final automatically. They wouldn't have had any of that if you would have had an extra point that was hit by Domagali in the regular season in the Labor Day rematch. But he doinks that off the upright, and then they have to fight through the remainder of the season to try and find some answers. And I think that the fan base is a little hesitant right now with the kicking situation. Return, it doesn't seem like Frankie Williams is going to go. That's unfortunate for Ticats fans because he can break it at any point. I think with the emergence of Devontae Dedmon more so this year, I think we forgot how good Frankie Williams has been at various points in his CFL career at making the big play happen on short notice. I look at this as it's pretty even across the board. And a lot of this, and I know it's not sexy, and a lot of people don't even realize the way it's happening when you're watching on television, but a lot of this might come down to all of those dogs, all those Canadian linebackers that are depth guys and special teams that are just running around. Like, these are the guys when I'm covering the CFL draft in the winter that I always look at the measurables and I look at how they play on specials and I go, that guy's going to be a CFLer. Why? For days like Sunday, where they have to run down 10, 15 times on coverage units and battle with somebody for 40 yards as you're running down and pushing them off and trying to find space. And every single play, it was funny. One of my close friends started going to Ticats games. He got season tickets this year. And I started talking to him about special teams and just how crazy it is when you're watching it back on game film. And he said, man, when I sit at Ticats games now, every single time that there's a special team kick or a coverage unit, I just look for the car crashes. And he said, it never disappoints. It's insane what those special teamers do every single play. And I mean, Frederick Plessius is an old veteran, played in the 2011 and 2012 Vanier Cups for Laval. He's still in Montreal doing it. Curtis Newton is a veteran out of the University of Guelph. He's doing it for the Ticats while backing up Simone Lawrence at will linebacker. So there's a lot of names that you can throw in that hat. But the Canadians and the backup linebackers, they might determine field position in this one. And then it's up to the offenses and defenses to figure it out from there.
That's a great point. Let's take a look at the West final. I mean, and this is, in my opinion, it's pretty much a pick-em. I know the spread's in and around 2 points right now for Saskatchewan, again, giving them a bit of a bump for home field. But you think about the 3 games that those teams played within 4 weeks. Calgary really got off the mat with those first 2 wins against the Riders. The Riders salvaged something out of the series with the win, and that was very important in getting a home playoff game. But you look at these teams, and, you can make a compelling argument on both sides of it. Going in, who do you think has the advantage based on where they are right now at the end of the 14-game regular season going into Sunday?
I like Calgary. I think Calgary is in a good spot, honestly, right now. And the reason that I say that is the more that I dig into what Calgary wants to do offensively and what Saskatchewan wants to do offensively, Saskatchewan has a lot of top-end talent and a lot of potential. But I also look at Saskatchewan and think, well, they're really trying to win the game in 2 ways. And it's more complicated than that. But to simplify it, it's like they want to be able to run effectively with William Powell. And then they're leaning on Duke Williams in a way that I think is wholly unhealthy to be the only deep play threat. Because if I am anybody from the Calgary secondary, which, by the way, is last in the CFL with only 6 interceptions this year. So, there's not a lot of fear when you're throwing vertically into that Calgary secondary in 2021. But I'm not leaning towards anybody rolling coverage or otherwise other than Duke Williams. And I think for Saskatchewan to say, we're going to beat you in these 2 ways, and we're going to hit some crossing roads to Keen Schaefer-Baker and Braden Lennius over the middle. And I don't know if it's going to be enough, because I think what Calgary wants to do is more sustainable. And that is effectively use Kadeem Carey, have a variety of receivers getting involved in the game plan, and not trusting that it's going to be, feast or famine. It's not going to be short or deep ball. They're going to work every part of the field. When you look at a Bo Levi Mitchell target chart, it's like a kid that took a paintbrush and just threw it at the screen in front of him. It's everywhere. There's no rhythm. There's no rhyme. There's no patterns. When you see a lot of quarterbacks, I go, okay, that's a front side thrower, or that guy, Cody Fajardo, for example, he doesn't throw very much down the rail to the outside on the sidelines, except for under 20 yards to the left side. Well, what does that tell me? He's a flip and rip kind of guy. He'll look to the right-hand side as a right-handed quarterback, and then he'll flip his head to the backside and let it go at this direction. You can actually see routes develop when you target enough of these throws. Bo doesn't have really tendencies. And I think what he does is a little bit more sound at this point. I wonder what Saskatchewan does building out their quarterback run game, how much they want to put Cody in the line of fire against Jameer Thurman and Darnell Sankey, Mike Rose and Sean Lemon. And like, that's a question to me of risk reward on running your quarterback, because a gain of 6 is not worth having Isaac Harker come into the ball game. If I'm going to call a quarterback run, I'm going to try to use it as a home run hitter and a real change of pace. Might be 1st and 10 when we know we're getting man coverage. And I'm going to bring a guard and a fullback swinging around as personal protectors to Cody. And I'm going to tell him, get the hell down as soon as you pick up 10, 20, 15 yards, unless you feel like you can keep running and make it an even bigger play. So I'll go back to the Duke Williams thing for a second here, Hustler, because I find this to be, I think, the most mind-blowing statistic that I've dug up thus far in my prep for the Western Semi. On passes of 30 yards or more down the field in 2021, Cody Fajardo, to anybody not named Duke Williams, is 3 of 34 on the year. That is a completion percentage of 8.8%. And that's 30 yards down the field. We're not talking 50, some ridiculous home run shot, Hail Mary. This is intermediate to deep passing, 30 yards or more down the field. He is 3 of 34. To Duke Williams, he's 3 of 6. Duke's only been in the lineup for 4 games. He's got as many catches of 30 yards or more in the air as every other receiver for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2021 from the entire 14-game regular season. So that tells me that they really don't have anything over the top other than Duke. I mean, Shaq Evans doesn't even have a catch that goes more than 25 yards in the air, not a single one the entire year. I get it, he was injured. But that's damning to me. Like, that tells me a lot about what they're up against. And then for Reggie Begelton on the other side, another NFL re-addition to the fold here in the CFL. When he led the CFL in receiving in 2019, he had 1,444 receiving yards, right? And he was just explosive, but he was catching 70% of the targets that were thrown his way. Well, that's great to be able to have that 70% completion rating, but right now it's 47%. Like, they're still working him into the fold. It's just they're connecting on 9 of 19 targets. But then you also think, well, damn, but that guy's had 19 targets in 2 games. Like, what are they going to do with him if they actually start to connect? Because it's pretty obvious that Bo is going to be stubborn and say, listen, Herj Mayala, I like you a lot. Colton Hunchak, you're a nice piece. Kamar Jordan, you're my boy. But this Begelton dude, like, I'm going to keep throwing at him because I know what we can create offensively together. I mean, yards per catch in 2019 when he led the league was 14.1. On those 9 targets so far this year since he's been back in Calgary, it's actually longer. It's 14.7. So the production is there. The efficiency and the connection between Bo and Begelton is not. If they figure that out in game, man, Calgary could be in control of this one by halftime.
Well, and it's funny you bring up Begelton because I agree. I mean, I think he has added just a whole different dimension to that Stamps offense. And I mean, the guy that needed him the most was Bo Levi Mitchell. I mean, Marsh, you did a great job breaking down the QB numbers. And I mean, when you're looking at efficiency and almost every stat that you're looking at, we're used to seeing BLM at the top of the list, not at the bottom of the list. And I mean, those are the facts for this 14-game regular season for Calgary. All that being said, he's still Bo Levi Mitchell, and I'm sure he's scaring the bejesus out of Rider fans that are going to be at Mosaic on Sunday.
Yeah, they'll never admit it, but as soon as there's a touchdown thrown, like the 71-yarder that opened up week 12 when they ended up playing in, or maybe it was week 10, but playing in Saskatchewan when he threw that first play touchdown, you could just see the look on everybody's face in Regina going, oh God, he's still Bo Levi Mitchell. I kind of forgot about this, right? Like, everybody kind of woke up and realized that he's still that dude and that's still what he's about. And yeah, for me, like, Bo is such an interesting study, more so than a lot of other quarterbacks. And I don't know if it's his playing style or if it's coaching or it's the system that he's in, but there's just not a whole lot that you can predict because he's as likely to throw a corner out as he is to back shoulder a post. He's as likely to take a 5-yard out as he is to weight it down and come to the backside and throw an in-breaking route to the field. I mean, he doesn't have these prototypical tendencies, and that must make him so hard to defend as a coordinator. Now, obviously, he doesn't run. That helps. I mean, that takes a little bit of the load off of you. It's funny. I actually, Hustler, had I posted a picture this week that I was doing some quarterback analysis on my Instagram page, and Bo DM'd me and he said, what you didn't write here is that the real thing that's going to crack open the CFL playoffs this year is the running ability of Bo Levi Mitchell. And I kind of laughed back to him and I said, well, Bo, I kind of laugh when people call you out for trying to run the football or not run the football because it's not your job, man. I'm like, you do everything really, really well. You don't have to do the running stuff. And he goes, I know. Sometimes I kind of play it up. He's like, sometimes I intentionally don't run just because I think it's funny when people go crazy that I'm not running. And I'm like, I love that so much. So he plays the heel in a variety of ways. I spoke to him in the offseason in a podcast. He doesn't mind being the heel. He loves going into contentious environments such as Mosaic Stadium. So he'll be ready. I got a lot of questions about this game, but Bo being ready and applying his leadership is not one of them. The one thing I think that is a challenge to Bo in this game, though, I should mention, is he's been, I don't want to say frustrated, but he's been doing a lot of coaching on the field. Like, if you really watch the body language and the mannerisms on field, he'll throw a curl route, receiver comes out at the wrong angle, and the TSN camera goes back to him, and he'll be giving him I need you to come back to me, like, get where I need you to be. And he's doing a lot of that. I think he's got to balance the coaching on the field with, hey, Bo, just be the quarterback, man. Like, just attack. Like, do what you need to do. You don't always have to be the one that's teaching the lessons. I think you can do that during the regular season. Once you get to the playoffs, if the dudes around you haven't figured out the way you need to come backwards on a curl route or the body mannerism to come out of a speed cut, they're probably not going to figure it out. Like, coaching in the game is not going to fix that. You just need to evolve and find answers on the fly in a playoff game. And again, him and Dickinson in-game adjustments, I think they're as good as anybody at it. And this defense for Saskatchewan, I mean, Nick Marshall, I would expect he's going to have a couple of double moves probably thrown at him throughout this game because he loves to bite down, and I think Bo is pretty aware of that. So, I mean, you mix in Trey Roberson into the fold and then some of the young offensive linemen that they're running through there in Calgary, and there's just so many layers to that game. I'll be very, very excited to watch it once I'm done doing my CFL.ca playoff coverage here from Hamilton.
Well, and maybe this is too simplistic, but could this game be decided by the defensive lineman? I mean, the team that gets to the opposition quarterback. I mean, could that be the difference in the game? Because, both of these defensive lines can get to the QB, and if you give Bo Levi Mitchell a lot of time, he'll kill you. And certainly Cody Fajardo, with the way that he can run the football, even if he doesn't have those reliable downfield targets. In a game like this, when it's actually supposed to be quite nice. I think about 4 degrees above. It's not going to be real cold. But, the running game is huge. But I just have to think that the team that, does a better job of getting into the backfield, that could be the difference in the football game between winning and losing, because as we said, there's so many things that are pretty close between both clubs.
Yeah, and the defensive line as well. Like, when I see Jonathan Woodard and AC Leonard and Micah Johnson, like, they're as good a group athletically up front as you're going to find in the CFL across the board. But I also believe that when I see the Calgary Stampeders, a little bit more veteran, maybe a little bit more savvy, but they know when to take their shots on offense. And on defense, I think they know when to dial it up. Like, Brett Monson, their defensive coordinator, doesn't get very much credit because everybody just views it as this big red machine. But I really do think that he's found a nice kind of pattern for his substitution packages and how he wants to attack opposition offenses, that he'll figure it out. Like, they'll get it going. I think Calgary's in a good spot in this game. I really do. Bo's very good at making people get very quiet when he plays on the road in playoff games. And I think he's going to do that once or twice in this game. And the question really comes down to, can they hit the home runs with Duke Williams? And can Cody Fajardo weather the storm emotionally? Because it's been an up and down year for him, one that I don't think he expected when he came into training camp. Can he show the mental toughness and the resolve to battle through whatever's put in front of him? If the answer is no to that, I think Calgary controls this one. I really do. And I would be shocked if Saskatchewan, regardless of how Fajardo handles this, runs away with any part of this game.
Hey, Marsh, just before we go, listen, I would love to see Saskatchewan win because it would just make that West final even cooler. We'd see, the rest of the seats filled up by Rider fans, and it would be a real special way to send one of those two teams off to the Grey Cup. If Calgary wins, though, and I was just talking about this earlier with Pat Steinberg and Calgary on the program, I mean, this could be the biggest story all year in the Canadian Football League. And we haven't talked a lot about Vax, and God knows we don't want to. But, I mean, they've been pretty clear that if they do win this football game, there will be multiple key players on this team that aren't able to come to Winnipeg, which, to be honest, almost seems inconceivable at this time. But yet here we are.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in for any team. I mean, Montreal's got some players of note, I think, as well. So if they were to end up winning, I mean, they got to go. It's obviously easier in the East, as you say, but to go back to Montreal and then to make your way to Toronto, and then if you win that game against Toronto, do you just carry straight to Hamilton? And then it's tough. And it's, for me, as somebody who wishes everyone would get vaccinated so that we could be closer to the finish line on this thing, I view this as being kind of embarrassing for the players that can't make the trip. And I'm okay with them being embarrassed. And I'm okay with the Transport Canada ruling that you can't have them going by trains, planes, or automobiles, or however the heck they want to get to the game. It's like, listen, man, if you want to do that, yes, pro-choice, do whatever you want, your body, all that good stuff. But if you're going to do that and you're going to endanger the process of the Grey Cup and the CFL playoffs, then I'm okay with them having to sit this one out. And I think that'll send a strong message as we continue to try and get people fully vaccinated, because sports are a bit of a lens into life and vice versa. So hopefully it'll wake some people up that might not be on the same page. And I think actually seeing the players that don't end up making the trip will make some people go, oh, okay, interesting. And it's same with Aaron Rodgers, right? When that one came out, it was just like people going, okay, oh, you know what? Some of the Aaron Rodgers stuff that he said before, now it does seem a little bit weird when I look back on it, considering what I've actually learned about this stuff. And, don't judge a book by its cover ever. People are diverse and have lots of different opinions and beliefs, and that's fine. That's part of being human. But I think that we'll get through these playoffs and they'll be very fun and very successful. We got great matchups, but that'll rattle some trees, I think, if that ends up happening.
Well, good news here in Winnipeg. I mean, they had everyone buy in early, and they've been all business all season long, and they'll be chilling this weekend, seeing who's coming to Winnipeg for that West Final. Marsh, I love the content at CFL.ca. There's a great piece up on the TSN website as well right now. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon as we get closer to that Grey Cup in your neck of the woods.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll mention as well, I haven't even told you guys this yet, but we have secured a Grey Cup tailgate party at Merit Brewing in downtown Hamilton on the actual day of the Grey Cup. It's going to be from 1 to 3 p.m. on Grey Cup Sunday. We're doing it with Canadian Football Perspective. Going to have hopefully Dustin Nielsen, Derek Taylor. We're going to do a live podcast, and we would love to have you and Michael come and hang out as well and enjoy a bevy and celebrate the CFL season in 2021.
There you go, Bomber fans. Book that Merit Brewing 1 to 3 on game day. Marsh, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Hustler. Talk soon.
There he is, Marshall Ferguson. You can give him a follow on Twitter at TSN_Marsh. I can't wait to bring on our pal Brian Munz and talk about the red-hot Winnipeg Ice. We'll do that in just a second. Of course, yesterday, an incredible day of football. Today, some matinee action for the Winnipeg Jets. And, of course, tomorrow night, a 9 p.m. start for the Jets against the Calgary Flames, meaning a whole lot of time to get together with the gang and watch the games at Boston Pizza. Of course, you'll enjoy those ice-cold schooners, the delicious pizzas, the amazing Boston's wings, and whatever game you want on the big screen, and if the Jets are playing, with sound as well. And if you're staying home, you can always order the great taste of Boston Pizza for much to the delight of everybody out in St. Vital, and DQ St. Anne's also available on Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats. And if you've got a need for a DQ ice cream cake, don't bother going in. Hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. They'll customize it for you and have it ready to go quick and easy at any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs. Again, that's at DQ Manitoba on Instagram. We're going to talk to Munzy. We will get you an update from here in Saskatoon for the Canadian Olympic curling trials with our Princess Auto curling report. And don't forget to stick around. We will have a marble race, albeit a little earlier than we normally do today, all before the top of the hour. But, with all the angst around the Winnipeg Jets right now, we thought we'd brighten up the mood of hockey fans and talk about a team that's done nothing but beat the hell out of everyone in their way this year, and that's the Winnipeg Ice, now 20-1 after their win Wednesday night at the Ice Cave. And our good friend, voice of the Ice and the director of communications for the Canadian Hockey League's #1 ranked team, joins us now on the program. Munzy, what's going on? How are you?
Huss, good to hear. You're in God's country. Have you hit Fuddruckers up yet?
You know what? I got a text from a friend that is from Saskatoon that told me that there's a Fuddruckers here. And
on 8th Street.
I have not hit it yet, but I will be going there beforehand. Okay. Long-time Winnipeggers will remember a Fuddruckers over in the sort of the St. James industrial area. I think it's a Smitty's right now. And I believe it was partly owned by like Dave Ellett. There was 3 members of the Jets that had a piece of it, but I've always loved Fuddruckers. I had no idea it was still here. So thank you very much for the tip. Yeah, no, you know what? It's been amazing. This event, curling's big here on the prairies. The Manitoba team is very well represented. So I have seen, quite a few bomber lids in and around the rink, but the Rider fans are ready. I put this out on Twitter last night, Munzy. I was there watching Carrie Anderson go up against Rachel Holman, and it was very hard to concentrate on the game because there was one individual in the front row wearing a Saskatchewan Roughriders luchador mask for the entire evening last night. And, just a little combination of the passion for that team and the event here. But it's going great. And you know what? It's funny. Lots of people, when I've been talking hockey with them, certainly what's going on with the Jets, but very quickly, we moved to the Winnipeg Ice because the teams in Saskatchewan have borne the brunt of this bulldozer so far this season. Let me just first off ask you, you personally, you've been in this business for a long time. How refreshing is it for you to be calling games again and doing it for a team that, you've only had to talk about a loss once in 21 games, so it must be pretty damn fun doing this night in and night out.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. There's no doubt that I wouldn't have minded being down in Nashville one night or down in Tampa or something like that instead of climbing the ladder in Swift Current to get into the press box. But other than that, it's been fantastic. The coaching staff, the players, the management are so much fun to deal with. And obviously the start that they've had right now has been a little bit easier for everybody to take a little bit of the expectation off. But it's been neat. It's been really cool for me to get back and get into a lot of places. In a couple of weeks, we come to Saskatoon where you are. We go to Prince Albert for the first time, obviously, where I spent 4 great years. And, we've seen everybody now. This past weekend, it was a Swift Current Medicine Hat road trip. So now that they've taken the Tigers off that list, they've played everybody at least once that they'll play during this regular season schedule of their 68 games. And Huss, you've got to say that when you look at it here, the Winnipeg Ice and the Edmonton Oil Kings are the 2 top teams, and everybody else is kind of playing for 3rd place after that here in the Eastern Conference. And the Oil Kings come in here for games 6 and 7 to wrap up a current 7-game homestand that they're on here in about 10 days. So it's a fun time of the year here in early December and late November on the calendar for sure.
No doubt about it. Brian Munz with the Winnipeg Ice with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We spoke before the season, and there were high hopes for this hockey club. I think everyone thought that there was a lot of talent and that they would be capable of, being a contender. But, now 21 games in, having won 20 of them, is the results, are they even beyond what could have possibly been expected? You don't expect to lose once in every 21 games, but the way that they've done it, Brian, they're really giving it to teams that aren't in their league. And then even against the top teams, as you mentioned, handled them pretty much consistently for them. Is this team overachieving right now, or are we just finding out really how good this team is top to bottom?
Well, you know what? I would have probably said that, kind of pump the excitement brakes until they got to about game 14 or 15. They're just scary good. In all honesty, Kevin Olszewski and I talk about it every night when we're doing the broadcasts. And as much as the goals are fun, they've scored 113 in 21 games. Kevin always takes me to the other side of it, and James Patrick and Josh Green probably like that side of it too. They've given up 36 goals against this year. That's it. They've given up 36 goals in 21 games. So as dangerous as they've been in the offensive zone, and I think you can probably take a few of those away when they blew out Brandon on opening weekend twice because the Wheat Kings were shorthanded. They had a number of players either banged up or away at NHL training camps. So the number may have got inflated a little bit, but in the last 7 to 10 games here, they're legitimately this good. And it's been so much fun to go into the ice cave and see everybody. And, we had our friend Ace Burpee join me for the game on Wednesday night because KO couldn't make it. And being a season ticket holder that he is, and Huss, you can talk about this because you've come into some games as well, whether it's Bisons or Ice. The farthest away you are is 8 rows from the playing surface.
Oh, it's unreal.
Yeah, so you've got a great vantage point right there. And then you've got a team that's, had the success that they have so far to begin the season here in quite convincing fashion that every game's been a party.
Well, it is a real fun atmosphere. And if people have not gotten out to it, I mean, it's very affordable, a great spot to bring the kids. But more often than not, you're just about guaranteed to walk away with a smile on your face because this team wins every night. Hey, we'll talk about some of the top offensive stars in a minute, but let's get back to your point about keeping the puck out of the net. I mean, 36 goals in 21 games is a phenomenal number. And, team defense, it all plays into it. But let's talk about the performances in the net right now because, that's where it all starts. We know what the Jets are without Connor Hellebuck. Fill us in on the guys in the net for the Winnipeg Ice and how important and sometimes maybe overlooked they've been because of all the scoring that's happening at the other end.
Yeah, they've had some nights where they haven't had a lot of work. But, probably the most intriguing part about it is both Gage Alexander and Daniel Hauser have split things. Gage has played 11 games. Daniel's played 10. Alexander got a lot of hype this summer, getting drafted by Anaheim and spending 5 weeks at Ducks training camp and just finding out what it takes to play at the next level. Ducks have sent out their goalie coach already here to Winnipeg to work with him for a little bit of practice time. So being a 19-year-old, I guess you'd say he's 1A, but at 17 years old, Daniel Hauser is 17-0-1 in his career, dating back to last year when he started in the bubble in Regina. So, knock on wood, he hasn't lost a game yet this season or in his career. So both guys have been able to have, success there. And, it doesn't really seem to matter which guy James Patrick decides to play. They've both had a tremendous start to the season.
Brian Munz with us talking about the 20-1 Winnipeg Ice, who are it's been about a month now, the number one ranked team in all of Canadian junior hockey. We've got a couple more games on the weekend at the Ice Cave for you to go out and check out. And when you go there, you'll see some of the top offensive stars in the league, including a couple of very high draft prospects. But I remember having Connor McLennan on right after he got back from, I believe, Flyers camp.
Right.
And I'll tell you what a fun conversation that was with a young man with a great personality. But every time I look at anything to do with the Ice, or frankly, the Western Hockey League, it's McLennan, it's Mikey Milne, and it's Matthew Savoy. And no surprise, you look at the scoring leaders right now, the top three guys in the entire Western Hockey League are those three players I just mentioned. I mean, fill us in on the offensive prowess and how much practice you're getting on your goal calls these days, Munzie.
Well, there's been a lot of them. There's no doubt it's been fun in that regard. McLennan leads the Western Hockey League right now with 17 goals. Matt Savoy's got 24 assists and 36 points to lead those two categories. Mikey Milne's right behind. I think he's got 15 right now, so he's only two back of McLennan. But, it's been spread out. So they've had an injury to Owen Paterson. So Zach Benson has jumped up onto that line with Matthew Savoy and Connor McLennan. Benson left on Tuesday, I guess it was, to go to Ottawa for the Capital City Challenge that Hockey Canada's put up for all the young under-17 players that one day will wear a Canadian jersey, hopefully, at the World Junior Hockey Championship. So that's given a chance for Chase Berthelot to jump into that top six. And then you've got the Connor Geeky line right now with Mikey Milne and Jacob Smallwood. And, Jacob Smallwood's one of their 3 20-year-olds along with Cole Muir and Nolan Orzak. And all of a sudden, he has 5 goals in his last 4 straight games and 8 points in his last 4. So it's not really just one line. Like, Winnipeg's just coming along in waves. And we haven't even talked about Connor Geeky, who's got 26 points already on the season here. So it's been a really good run for the club. And, it's been a lot of fun for sure.
Well, just on Benson for a minute. I mean, I remember he came in as a 15-year-old last year in the bubble. I mean, there was only 24 games, but, from the games that I was watching, I mean, you want to talk about a kid that didn't look out of place right away. I mean, it was frankly incredible at 15 years old. And, now he comes in for his first season and, maybe it was the experience that he was able to get last year, but I mean, he looks like a veteran and what an exciting young player that he is, still a couple years away from hearing his name called in the NHL draft.
I kind of call him the magician sometimes because, and I mean this with all the respect in the world, but I see him off the ice and he reminds me of my 10-year-old son. Like he's got the baby face. He's this little guy. He's 5'10". He's about 160 pounds. And then he steps on the ice and he just dazzles you every time. Like not only in games, but in practice, like what he's been able to do. And, for him to get a chance to go to Ottawa this weekend and skate with the other best Canadian players that are in his age group right now for a few days. And they're going to play the Canadian women's team. So it's a great opportunity for him really to get on Team Canada's radar. It's been a treat. And it kind of goes back to that first question you asked, how are you enjoying it? Like these players make it so much fun because they are 16 to 20 years old. They haven't had the bright lights of the NHL shine on them yet or anything like that. Like they're still trying to find their way in life. But then they step onto the ice, they throw on their gear, and it's just such a treat to watch. And it's been cool. It's been a really first fun third to the year, I guess we're just past that 20 game mark, and they play 68 overall leading into April. So it's been really cool.
Munzy, just looking ahead, we're not too far away from World Juniors. How many ice players might we see in the tournament?
Well, Carson Lambos and Connor McLennan went to the summer camp, right? So you would hope for both of those that they would get the invite again. We would assume that in the next probably week or so, you would hear. We haven't heard as of yet exactly when the invites will come out, but what are we here? November the 26th, when I look at the calendar here. So I would think in the next week or so that the players will get the invite, and then they'll go through the training camp, and then they'll obviously announce the players that will represent. So, I would think that Lambos and McLennan will be on that list. Do Matthew Savoy and Connor Geekie get an invite? It's usually a 19-year-olds tournament. So both of them being 17, are they a year or so away from that? I don't know. That's kind of the curiosity that I've got right now. Maximilian Struhl may have an opportunity to go to camp for Team Switzerland. I would think those would be the only guys. So that's kind of the five that I have circled on my list here right now. But, it's definitely starting to become a little bit of a conversation in the room as we get closer here right now as to who could get a chance to get invited, and then obviously see how their camps go and then get that final invite to get going for real when they start on Boxing Day.
Well, when you consider what these young men have done so far, I mean, I don't know what more they could have done to be on the radar. I mean, when you talk about Geekie and Savoy as well, I mean, Lambos and McLennan, I imagine, will be part of that club. So it'll be exciting times for the Ice. 2 games this weekend with an 8 o'clock start on Saturday night, and then 5 o'clock on Sunday. Tee up the weekend for Ice fans, and obviously let them know how they can come out and see the number 1 team in Canadian junior hockey.
Yeah, the game, I guess, first of all, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, Lucas Svejkovsky and the Medicine Hat Tigers. He's one of the most elite goal scorers that we've had a chance to see. And they played Winnipeg really hard last weekend in the Hat. It was a tight game all the way down to the wire. And Willie Desjardins got them playing pretty good. They're a younger team. Like they lost Cole Sillinger, obviously, to Columbus, who they expected to possibly score 40 or 50 goals for them this year. He stays up, so that's a void for them right now. But they've got a team that works really hard. And then the Raiders come into town for that 5 o'clock start on Sunday afternoon. And there's always good games between Winnipeg and PA. And obviously Gooley's back there that will be a player for Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Ozzy Weisblatt as well. So they've got a club that maybe doesn't have the wins that they would like to have right now in the East Division standings, but can guarantee Mark Habchat will have them ready to go this weekend. So big weekend coming up, winnipegice.ca, and hope to see everybody out inside the Ice Cave. It's been a terrific start to the year, and really we're only getting going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I can't wait to have more chats with you throughout the season about the exciting Winnipeg Ice. Again, 8 o'clock Saturday, 5 o'clock Sunday. Tickets available at winnipegice.ca or at the door. And say hi to our pal Kevin O. He hasn't been driving you crazy yet, has he, Munzy?
No, Kevin keeps kind of the whole thing rolling for us when I'm running around the rink. So it'll be great to have him back on the weekend, and we look forward to the games this weekend.
Thanks for doing this, pal.
Anytime. Enjoy my city, eh? Don't forget.
Absolutely. It should be a fun weekend. Been a great week, a lot of work so far, but definitely looking forward to hitting the patch. And I will hit Fuddruckers.
Did you get to Humboldt yet? You're only an hour away.
Well, no, I mean, I've barely been able to leave the hotel and get to the curling right now, although that actually would be a nice thing to do on the weekend.
Yeah, you're only an hour away. Go check out the rink.
Beautiful. Munzy, have a great weekend. Good luck to the Ice.
All right, Huss. Take care.
There it is. Brian Munz, voice of the Ice and director of communications 4, the number 1 team in the Western Hockey League, and now for 4 straight weeks, the number 1 team in the entire CHL, 20-1 on the season. They'll try and get that to 22-1 with games on Saturday and Sunday at the Ice Cave. And then, as Munz mentioned, the end of this road trip next week, couple games with the Edmonton Oil Kings, the only team. They are the 1 in 20-1. And yes, you're right. I don't know who was it, Kabilis or somebody said that we're almost getting into Undertaker territory. Or no, I think that was Ryan Friesen a couple days ago. So they'll be there if they can get a couple more wins on the weekend. All right. We are going to, let's get Remis back in here for a second. Great stuff with Marshall Ferguson. Awesome to have Munz on the program. Big thanks to Pat Steinberg for joining us. And Remo, it's Friday. I do need to get to the Coolbet Lines, and I do want to do a Princess Auto curling report as we look ahead to the final 2 draws of the round robin tonight. But it is Friday, and we may need to get the proceedings going to enter our loyal viewers. And thanks to everyone that's joining us live today on YouTube, who've actually come out at an early time before the Jets and Wild go at it this afternoon, because there will be marbles today, even with the early start on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh yeah, we're about to do the marbling, so let me get this thing ready. Do you want me to put the code in? Are we doing it right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think we open it up, and for just if you haven't been here before, look in the chat. You'll see the announcement that things are open. What you're going to need to do is type in !marbles, and of course, make sure that you are subscribed. Hit that red subscribe button and then put in !marbles. We'll give you about 5 minutes to get your names in. Make sure we've gotten everybody, and then we'll load it up, and we'll do our first marble race with Remis in Winnipeg and myself on the road. Man, it's been fun. It's going to be a great weekend, but it will be good to get back next week. Lots going on, of course, as we count down to the Bombers' Western Final a week from Sunday. But prizes today, our great sponsors at Canadian Club have hooked us up with a number of hoodies. It's funny, we had a big run. Maybe we've got some bigger dudes like myself that have been rocking the double X. I'm not sure if we still have any double X's, but the other sizes, medium, large, XL, all good. And these are essentially this hoodie along with a special Canadian Club Winnipeg Blue Bombers patch on the side as the official whiskey of the blue and gold. So we've got a hoodie for first place, and then second place, we've got an I Love Rye package, including the great taste of Canadian Club. And I did see on Instagram, there are still a few bottles left, I believe, in Manitoba of the special Canadian Club Chronicles 44-year bottle. Just the 42 was a big hit that we gave. I think it was P. Sambo that won that with a very special giveaway for us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But if you do have a rye lover that loves things from the top shelf, check that out. Very limited availability with less than 70 bottles in the entire province of Manitoba. So, Remo, are we open? Are people throwing in !marbles, getting ready for the big race?
Yeah, it's open right now. I see we have about do we have 190 people in chat? Is that accurate? And I see 67 entries so far. So yeah, !marbles gets you in. I'll copy and paste them all. See, maybe we have people know that we're about to do marbles and they're coming in to say hi. So great to see everyone here at a different time. So it's important, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and you will know when we go on at different times, because it's kind of nice to us. I know there's a Jets game, and we can be like, hey, we'll just do it early. So there we go.
Yeah, you know what? This has happened a couple times. One time due to a funeral, today during the game, moving it up a little bit. Obviously, people listening on the podcast can listen at their leisure, but we do appreciate everyone hitting those notifications and making sure they know when we are live and joining us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, put in !marbles. We'll get that going in about 5 minutes. And in the meantime, let's get to a little Princess Auto curling report from this morning. Kevin Cooey with a big 3 in the 10th to beat Manitoba's Jason Gunlickson 9-7. Botcher beats Epping 10-6. Mike McEwen falls to 4-3 with a 9-5 loss to Brad Jacobs. And Matt Dunstone gets his second win, 8-4 over Tanner Horgan. So the men's side looks like this. Gushu and Jacobs are in. Cooey is 5-2, and Mike McEwen is 4-3. So essentially what needs to happen in this final draw this evening is Mike McEwen is going to need to beat Brad Gushu. That has been a tough. The only team that's done it all week has been Jason Gunlickson in Manitoba. So maybe the second Manitoba team can give Gushu an L, and then they'll be cheering for Team Epping to hand Kevin Cooey a third loss. If that happens, it'll be Cooey and McEwen playing in a tiebreaker game with the winner to take on either Jacobs or Gushu in the 1-2 game. And as far as the women's go, it all comes down to this for Carrie Anderson. Carrie can win this afternoon. She is guaranteed to be the third playoff team and will play against Jennifer Jones, the winner of that, to take on Tracy Fleury, who has been undefeated so far. Now, Fleury and Jones play each other this afternoon, but Fleury at 7-0 has already guaranteed her spot for the East St. Paul rink to be in Sunday's final. So Tracy Fleury and her squad is one game away from representing Canada at the Olympics. If Einerson were to lose this afternoon, there would be a playoff. We've got the McCarville rink that's already finished at 4-4. Carey would go to 4-4. And then you'd also have the Scheidegger and the Walker rinks that with victories would be able to get into that tiebreaker. So potential chaos if Carrie Anderson loses to the Rock rink this afternoon. That being said, she'll be a favorite, should be a favorite. And considering the way she looked playing Rachel Holman last night, I think Carrie Anderson is coming into form at the perfect time. And I think there's a very good chance that we're going to be talking about the final three playoff teams, the three Manitoba rinks, and we'll be guaranteed a Manitoban rink representing Canada on the women's side at the Olympics. So going to be a great draw this afternoon, which should be an incredible weekend here in Saskatoon as we find out who will be representing Canada in Beijing. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsor of curling in the country and a major sponsor of both Team Jennifer Jones, who is playoff bound, and Mike McEwen's rink, who does need a little bit of help this afternoon to get into that mix. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can check out either of the two locations in the city of Winnipeg. Of course, they're Canada-wide, but headquartered and family-owned right here in Winnipeg. And you can also hit them up online, 24/7, 365. Whatever you're thinking, they will turn into reality at princessauto.com. All right, we should get to some Coolbet Lines as well today. Let's do a quick look at what we've got for the National Football League on the weekend. Of course, a lighter slate on Sunday because we've had 3 games yesterday and a few teams on the bye as well, including the Kansas City Chiefs. The Steelers, and by the way, we're going to get to all of this on the Lock Shop right after Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'll be hooking up with Chris Abbott and Dustin Nielsen. We'll do our Friday program, so you can check my Twitter at Hustlerama. It'll be broadcast on Dustin Nielsen's Twitter at NielsenTSN1260. And if you're listening on the podcast and you haven't heard the Lock Shop, same way you're getting Winnipeg Sports Talk, just type in the Lock Shop, hit the subscribe button, and you'll get new content on Tuesdays and Fridays during football season. After NFL goes, we'll probably go back to one show a week. But Bengals, 3.5-point favorites over the Steelers. The Texans and Jets. Whoa, if you thought the Lions-Bears was good yesterday, just wait till you see the Texans and Jets go at it on Sunday. Houston, minus 2.5-point favorites. Bucks, 3-point road favorites against the Colts. Falcons and Jags. Man, there's some garbage games this week. Atlanta, 2-point favorites on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Carolina and Miami, another dud game. My God, Carolina, 2-point favorites on the road against the Dolphins. This will be a good one, though. Tennessee in New England, in Foxborough, to take on the Pats, the first place Pats. 6.5-point home favorites are the Patriots. Giants, Eagles. Giants laying 3.5 on the road. The Chargers are 2.5-point road favorites against the Denver Broncos. The Rams. I don't know how the Rams are 1.5-point favorites. Maybe people are very worried about Aaron Rodgers' COVID toe or fractured toe, as he likes to say. I think he wants a retraction from the New York Times. Anyways, Packers, you don't see them underdogs at home very often. 1.5-point dogs against the Rams. Vikings laying 3 on the road against the Niners. Browns minus 3.5 against the Ravens. And the Monday nighter, the WFT, coming off a couple big wins. They look to keep it going against the very disappointing Seattle Seahawks. Washington, just a 1-point favorite for the action. And by the way, CFL, let's do a quick update on the CFL lines. CFL lines are as follows. Oh, haven't really changed all week. Hamilton minus 4.5 and Saskatchewan minus 2.5 favorites for the 2 games. And by the way, check my Twitter or go to Coolbet Canada on Twitter. If you're going to make a wager of $10 or more on the CFL games on the weekend, screenshot it. All the information on the contest is out there on Twitter. But yeah, screenshot it and they'll be giving away a pair of tickets to the big game in Hamilton to someone that has made a $10 wager or more on the Canadian Football League. And you have up until Sunday to get those in and submit it. So there you go, coolbet.com. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Remo, before we get to the marbles, how about some of those dog games in the National Football League I just read out?
You mean Houston versus the Jets? That one?
Houston Jets, Atlanta Jags.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Panthers, Dolphins.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not have tried. And I mean, this is all coming off the heels of the Bears Lions to start off Thanksgiving.
I think Carolina actually has a shot at the playoffs because they have this new spot. And the Dolphins with Tua are not horrible. So yeah, those games are rough. Rams, Packers is a good one. Vikings, 49ers. There's a couple. But Browns, Ravens, nice divisional battle. So there are some games, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna have dud games.
Yeah, by the way, Vikings folks, that's going to be an interesting game, Minnesota and the Niners. Niners have had a couple nice wins coming into this game. Minnesota's a 3.5 dog at even money. You can get them at plus 3.5 at minus 120. That's where I'm going because basically it seems that it doesn't matter what happens in the entire game. You can count on one thing. The Viking games are going right down to the wire and are usually a 3-point game. So I'm going to take that extra half point, pay a little bit more to get it. But I do think that'll be a close game. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Vikes went in and won that football game as well. The exception of the Rams game, and the Rams have been brutal the last couple of weeks. The Niners have stunk at home. And I think the Vikes have a bit of mojo, and they know how desperate they are for wins right now after sort of a tough start. I'll be hitting that game and much more in the lock shop coming up in about 20 minutes as we get going. But, there's only one way to finish off a great week of shows from Saskatoon, and that is a long-distance marble race. Reem, I think just about everyone has gotten in their selection. So I think we can officially say last call for marbles. Exclamation mark marbles in the chat if you want to be in it. Make sure you've hit that thumbs up button, please. And make sure you've hit the red subscribe button. Have to be subscribed to win some of the great prizes we've got from our friends at Canadian Club. All right, Remo, we ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. There are a couple people who didn't get in. I'll resume it. Before we do, I'll resume it. You got one last chance. I think I closed it early.
Last call, folks. Last call.
This is now
T-Will, get him in.
Yeah, this is now the last call, so make sure you're in. We did have a short bomber update. Has the Bombers practice today? Darren Bombing says Brandon Alexander was on the field, not practicing. Jackson Jeffcoat's practicing after being down. It sounds like he's going to be fine. Brady Alvera, non-participant. Dietrich back practicing. And a lot of talk about Andrew Harris. I think Bob Irving was saying Andrew Harris is the real unknown. We're not really sure. He was in casual attire.
Bombing's got some great stuff over on his page. Okay, last call. We're done. Let's get ready for the marble race. And I'll just hit some great content from Bombing. Jamarcus Hardrick. Yeah, Jamarcus Hardrick rocking a Fort Garry Lions hat. Bombing was mentioning where his son plays. And Jackson Jeffcoat says he has no doubt about his available for the West Final and said he could have played last week if he needed to. But yes, as Remis just mentioned, Andrew Harris is the big question mark. He was out there in the fatigues, not practicing. but I still got to think that Andrew Harris is going to do everything he can to be in that lineup for the 5th of December. But the good news is Brady Oliveira has been a stud, and my God, I mean, Johnny Augustine, player of the week in the Canadian Football League with 148 yards rushing last week, showed that if they need to call his number, he's ready to go as well. So, this will be, it's neat to see the Bombers getting out there, getting a little bit of extra practice ahead of the West Semi. But things will begin in earnest with a playoff game week of practice beginning on Monday after the Bombers find out who they will be welcoming to IG Field. Will it be the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who are the home favorite, or will it be the Calgary Stampeders? And as we touched on with Pat Steinberg in Calgary and Marshall Ferguson earlier, the big story behind the scenes is what happens if Calgary wins. It's been widely reported that a number of key players on the Stampeders are not vaccinated, which means that come the 30th of November, they will not be able to fly, which means they won't be coming down to Winnipeg for the West Final. So I kind of hope Saskatchewan wins, so that's not a big story, and we get to see the Bombers and Riders. But I'll tell you what, it'll be very, very wild to see it if that is the way that it goes down, if Calgary wins. And that story will probably take on a life of its own. Good news for the Bombers, and they're all business. They bought in early. No such issues here in Winnipeg, and they'll be ready to host either the Riders or the Stampeders. All right, Remo, how are we looking? Ready to go? We got 5 minutes. This is the way we finish it off with the marble race on Winnipeg Sports Talk. What course are we doing today?
I have one here called, let me just bring it up. We'll get ready. It's called The Factory. I think that's a acceptable one, right? That sounds like
I think we've done The Factory maybe before.
Have we? Well, I can bring up the names. One sec. Let me get you looking.
Factory sounds good. Maybe we just talked about it. I can't remember all of them. I mean, as I said.
We've done a lot of these, so I just want to get you looking good when I bring it up. Make sure you're in a good spot here. All right. Well, yes. Thank you for tuning in here, though, as well. One sec. Ready?
Yeah, exactly. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. And if you are listening to the podcast, again, this doesn't probably translate as well to the podcast as much as the YouTube show. But definitely do us a favor. Hit us with a 5-star rating and a little review on Apple Podcasts. Certainly helps us spread the channel as well. All right. How many folks we got in it today?
107 people in.
Nice.
What about Hard Landing? I like that name. Hard Landing.
Hard Landing. Sure. That sounds good. We definitely haven't done that one before.
Definitely. Hard Landing does not sound familiar. Yeah, we got 107 people in.
Excellent. All right. Well, Remis is going to get us ready to roll. And again, if you're just popping in for the first time and wondering what the hell are we doing, we are doing a Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race. Every Friday we do it. We've got some great prizes with Canadian Club. Again, first place, Winnipeg Sports Talk CC co-branded hoodie. Second place, an I Love Rye package, including a little product from our friends at Canadian Club. All right, little early today. Great to see everyone joining us on the program. Hope everyone's ready for a great weekend. Hockey tonight, Jets Flames tomorrow night. Lots to do it. But before we get to the games, we do marbles on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Remis, why don't you let her rip?
All right. Some people said this one looks familiar. I don't know. They all start off with like a funnel. I mean,
yeah,
but they're all
here we go. We are off with the Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race. Thank you to everyone that joined us today on the program, and good luck to everybody trying to get a W and one of the great prizes we have here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Wild funnel right now, Remis. This is like a hurricane. Nobody has been able to get down the bottom of the funnel just yet. Big move right now for the first guy. This is like literally is like a hurricane. Maybe the physics are just it's like a NASCAR race. No one can get down first.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned people on the podcast. I'm sure they enjoy listening to the call of the marble race. It's like radio when you listen to a game, right? So here we are, Jan Nordman, the first one out, and there's James and Manny Fran, and Jan and Manny get shot all the way down. So we're off here on the course.
Trevor Red Ranger in the mix as well. And Manny Fran now in the lead with a huge rocket shot up into, okay, this is definitely a wild course right now. It was a little slow getting going, but we're in the mix right now. So Manny Fran, Jan Nordman, there's Tracy Okraniak. Hey, Tracy. Derek's up there as well. Not entirely sure where this is going to right now, but Manny looks like he's going to be going over the top. Whoa, Schmidt-Face. Did Schmidt-Face get rocketed ahead of everyone?
Yeah.
Corbin. Yeah, there's definitely some boosters at some place on this course right now. Corbin Bowen. It looks like Corbin is in. Whoa, who's going to win? Corbin is our winner. Manny Fran in second. No, Manny Fran's not in. Jan Nordman is there right now. Who's going to get in second right now? This is unbelievable. Corbin Bogan is the winner. He's got the hoodie. Who will be second? Could it be Manny Fran? And just an absolutely photo finish there. Manny Fran taking out Derek Schmidt at the green. We'll have to check the numbers for just how close that was. It seemed like it was almost instantaneous. But Corbin, another first-time winner on it. Way to go, Corbin. Great to have you with us. And Taylor, I haven't fallen. I have a chance. This was quite the course. Now the rest of the crew all making its way in. I see Lishka, Rush Lowen, Marilee Gurlow, Lowry's Beard. There's Kubi and Eggs. Todd Fertani. What's up, Todd? Have a great weekend. Say hi to the gang at Win. I'll see you next week. There's Taylor, who came in at the end. Pretty in Pionk. Great name. Who's it going to be? Pionk or Kabilis last in? I think it was Pretty in Pionk. There you have the winner, Corbin Bowen. Way to go, Corbin. And Manny Fran, you're a winner too. Corbin, we've got a hoodie for you. Manny Fran, we've got the I Love Rye package for you. I'll be back in the city on Monday, but for pickup. But in the meantime, Corbin, Manny, fire an email over to winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Get us your deets, and we'll set everything up, and we'll be able to pop by and pick up your gear, either the product for you, Manny, or your hoodie for you, Corbin. And again, thanks again to our friends at Canadian Club for supporting us and working with us on these great prizes to do in the marble races. Remo, that was a very bizarre start to it, but once things got going, that was one of the more exciting marble races we've seen.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild race. Marbles flying over the top of the track into the finish. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. A lot of DNFs on that one, a lot of bye-byes. And
I don't mind the DNFs. I mean, there's only two people that are going to win. I mean, we have some excitement, some people going over the top rope. I mean, I'd rather kick people out of the marble race than out of the chat like you often do when things get a little hectic. So overall, I think it worked out very well. So Corbin, Manny, props to you. Congratulations. Thanks for doing it. Thanks to everyone that participated in today's marble race. Of course, we're doing this a little earlier today because we got a hockey game coming up in about 90 minutes. Jets and Minnesota Wild. For those of you that want some more fun content from yours truly, I'll be getting together with Dustin Nielsen in about 10 minutes with the latest edition of the Lock Shop. So check my Twitter or pop on over. Give Dusty a follow as well at Nielsen TSN 1260. And you can also follow us on Twitter, the account at Lock Shop Bets. Thanks again to Coolbet Canada for their support of the Lock Shop, of course, of Winnipeg Sports Talk as well, and all the coverage we're doing from the curling. Hit me up on Instagram at Hustlerama and Twitter. Of course, no show until Monday, but I will have some of the sights and sounds from the Canadian Olympic curling trials. And obviously, we'll be tweeting about the CFL playoffs on the weekend, a big day of NFL, although some ugly games that we just talked about, and the real excitement coming up on Sunday here, 11 a.m. the women's final, 7 p.m. the men's final. And on Monday, we'll be doing a show knowing who is representing Canada at the Olympics, and it sure as heck looks like it will be a Manitoba team on the women's side. Carrie Anderson needs a win this afternoon to guarantee that all three Manitoba teams will be the playoff teams. Tracy Fleury's 7-0. She's awaiting the winner of, in all likelihood, a Jones-Anderson matchup for Sunday's final. Once again, I want to thank all of our sponsors. Vita Health Fresh Market. Check out those great Black Friday deals today. And Royal Sports. Holy smokes, do they have a lot going on. I wasn't able to get through everything Royals got on, but if you go to Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina, hit their Insta story. Hockey sticks, shoes. I mean, tons of gear. I'm sort of jealous that I'm not there right now. This would have been a great day to hit Royal. Our friends at Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug. Don't forget that new 5-year special brew that's out celebrating 5 years at Little Brown Jug. Our curling sponsor, Princess Auto. Great to have them on board and a big part of this week. Boston Pizza, Nick and Nikki DQ Group, Canadian Club, and our friends at Coolbet Canada. For Michael Remis, thanks so much. It's been great feedback all week doing the shows here in Saskatoon. I will be back in Winnipeg on Monday. We'll wrap the week in Saskatoon. We'll get ready for the West Final, and we'll have the latest on the Winnipeg Jets after games in Minnesota and Calgary this weekend. Folks, have a great one. Thanks for being with us, and enjoy the games this weekend. We'll see you on Monday on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.